Hi, everyone, and welcome to the special simulcast of COVID-19 vaccine show, the Neil Haley show. And so we're going to be jumping on this quickly because of the news and everything that's happening. Dr. Mark Hayden, congratulations on the success of the COVID-19 vaccine show. Number two, vaccine show out there on iTunes and Spotify and all the different places, and some great success. And we have an interesting topic today to talk about, don't we?
We sure do. We want to talk about RaDVaC, RaDVaC. It's a virus-like particle that can be sprayed up in the nose. It was openly discussed and debated, and really has been developed in the background for about a year now, almost a year. And this is actually, RaDVaC had an article, I think, in Bloomberg and Al Jazeera. It's had some other things. If you Google that, it's RaDVaC. This is the first podcast that I know of that is going to openly discuss RaDVaC. And I wanted to invite Dr. William Patterson. He's a friend and a colleague of mine. I've worked with him for years. I've referred patients to him. Have a great deal of respect. And Dr. Patterson has a background in the practice of medicine. He's been involved in utilization review, and I'm sort of like a radical type person, but Dr. Patterson is more a tradition. You're more a traditionalist, wouldn't you say, or more conservative?
Yes.
What do you think?
Oh, yes. Yes.
And but if you look in the United States, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, whether you're a radical like me or whether you're conservative, the issue of coronavirus affects us all. And so and there's a saying in Proverbs, out of a multitude of counselors, there is safety. One of the things I think that we really missed out on as a culture is that we did not have debate. The people who should have been debating the different pathways should have been physicians, and not just virologists at the CDC. We, as physicians, as medical specialists and scientists, we all have a right to have different viewpoints. People have different viewpoints on all kinds of things: gun control, abortion. We're going to have different viewpoints on what's the best inoculation method. But hey, guess what? You get a better informed decision when you have open debate by people that have been there, done that, and from people from different parts of the world. Right now in the United States, most of the decisions, in fact, almost all the decisions by the federal government are centralized. Power is centralized with the CDC. And the CDC actually even controls Fort Detrick, which is a biowarfare center. But the real nitty-gritty of it is, when power and decisions are centralized, it puts an enormous, it takes away the power of innovation from people out in the periphery. And one of the things I would have much like to have happened in the last year is that for physicians to be more involved in debating publicly. There's a reason why physicians didn't debate. Physicians have a license that takes them years and much money and much time to get. And they are trained that if you go against the crowd and if you stand out like a sore thumb, you'll be beat down and cut down. I have been different than most of the crowd. And okay, yes, I'm weird or strange, but I'm only able to do that because I have a very defensive posture. And we haven't talked about this on the show much. I'm very litigious, so that when people come against me in any type of litigation or even in any type of enforcement action, I'm very aggressive at defending my rights. So I defend my position when attacked through litigation if I'm attacked by any of the regulatory bodies. I exercise all my rights. And so I don't just believe in good science, I believe in good civil rights and defend. And if you don't do both, you really can't survive as a physician. I have known physicians who had reasonable scientific stands, and if they were not the norm, they got removed. Alternative care is not protected by one of the Bill of Rights. So if you do something out of the norm, physicians worry about losing their license, costing them personally, and they'll get no credit, no fame, they'll get no money, and they'll just be broke because they lost their license. That shouldn't be the way it is, but that is the way it is. I wanted Dr. Patterson here today because we want to talk about RaDVaC. Now, I have just looked at RaDVaC for the last 3 or 4 days. It takes a little bit to get used to, and many of the people who listen to this program, some are going to be physicians, some are going to be scientists, some are going to just be lay people. I think, Neil, how would you classify yourself, Neil?
Layperson.
But, you know, Dr. Patterson, how would you classify yourself?
Well, you know, I'm a psychiatrist. I'm not a virologist, an immunologist, etc., internist, psychiatry. So one of the biggest interest I had in coronavirus was the mental health aspects of coronavirus infected patients. And there has been some literature to come out on that. The issue of RaDVaC is very new to me. Until you emailed me or texted me about it, I was even unaware of it. I certainly agree with your comment about physicians having a lot of pressure to be a conformist, especially with state licensing boards. And if you do things that are out of the norm, just like you said, you're running a risk of having your license suspended, revoked, etc. A real problem. And to me, that you know, it sort of blocks or stops or impedes innovation or creative ideas when it comes to things like vaccines, approaches to vaccines, whether or not you're going to use mRNA or you're going to use attenuated live adenovirus or whatever. So if you get out of the norm, you've got problems.
You're exactly right. And now you saw some of that happen down in the US Senate when Rand Paul was debating Fauci about whether surgical masks work or not.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, that was not a friendly conversation.
No,
it's an unfriendly conversation. That's a problem because we were supposed to grow up and live in an open society where debate and tolerance for different ideas was allowed.
Yes, yes.
That's what the society, oh, guess what? It's a democracy. Everybody gets to contribute. That sounds good, yes, but how real is that? That's right.
Yeah.
And and then you came out, we have the most innovative minds in America. There are innovative minds around the world. But if you threaten those people's livelihood, if you threaten their career, ordinary people shut up. They learn to survive, you follow me? Mm-hmm. By keeping their mouth shut, by pushing down. And you've really almost sent a message. I think Joe Rogan, he came out with some issues and debate, and his talk show was very popular. And he was talking about vaccine. Oh, guess what? He's not allowed to. Oh, you could actually even be censored on Facebook, which has, by the way, a monopoly. That we could talk about monopolies to begin with, but then let's talk about Facebook, which is a monopoly trying to censor people that don't give out the approved data. Yeah. So guess what? It's a year later, over a year. COVID is coming back stronger than ever. Not here in our local area, it's in India. Some of the worldwide numbers are hitting new peaks. The death rates in India are exploding. And guess what? The battle against COVID is not just being lost. Your freedoms are being lost.
Right. Okay. So, Doctor, I'm going to jump into this. So, what are your thoughts on RaDVaC. So
Okay. Yes, we wanted this to discuss. And you know, the best way I love Wikipedia. And if you look up Wikipedia, one of the things you'll see on that is you can look up RaDVaC, but you can also go to a subunit vaccine under Wikipedia, subunit vaccine, VACCINE, and you'll see that under subunit vaccines, they classify little protein amino peptides that are very similar to the peptide at which the antibody would bind to. You can try to sensitize yourself to that. Now, one of the ways in which you can sensitize yourself to it is to take the peptide and put it with an adjuvant. And in this case, adjuvant is chitosan. And this is what the RaDVaC is using. And you can make a nasal spray out of it, and you can spray it up your nose. There is a very mild, and I mean very mild, immune response. Very, very, very mild. But if you do it once a week for 3 weeks in a row, it is reported that people can now begin to detect antibody responses using saliva. Okay. Now, in the United States, we had no saliva antibody tests. And I did not even know about them until I actually started going to the RaDVaC website, and then I started contacting some of the other researchers. But it does turn out that in China, you can do the straight salivary, and you can actually making these kits that you can even do stool with.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so remember they made jokes about Chinese wanting to do anal swabs? Well, guess what? The Chinese folks, they're mass producing. You can even do anal swabs so that you can check and see if the antigen's showing up in the stool. That is a huge improvement than what I did a year ago, last year, and doing stool PCRs. That was expensive. It was difficult to do, took time. So with RaDVaC, what they do is they take part of a peptide that will stimulate the proper immune response. They attach it to chitosan. And what chitosan is, it's an inexpensive, and it's not even controlled. You can buy it and mix it. You can mix a peptide, which is a protein, with chitosan, which is legal. And then you can have a nasal spray and you can spray it up your nose. Is it as strong a reaction as any type of intramuscular? Absolutely not. Is it safe for immunocompromised people, people that have HIV? Well, technically, those people, that's not a live virus. It won't kill them. So it is safe. Can it withstand changes to temperature, light, and exposure to humidity? Yes. And in fact, one of the things that the RaDVaC website, www.radvac.org, RaDVac.org. If you'll go to their website, they will show you, if you look at their white paper, and you have to do a disclaimer that you're not going to kill people or use it in the United States or tick off the FDA or be a terrorist, et cetera, to even get their white paper. But on their white paper, they go over how you can make that in your kitchen.
Yeah.
The cost per dose is only about 20 cents or less. And you would need about 3 doses over 3 weeks. Now, is that as good? It's different. You know, you don't want to compare.
Yeah,
we
mentioned it before on this program last episode, right?
What's that?
The one you can make in your kitchen. We talked about that last week.
Yes. Let me tell you, RaDVaC is the first one. Vaccine. It's an antigen that has some of the proteins in it that would be particularly on the spike protein, and that you can sensitize yourself to those spike proteins by getting the right mixture. Now, here's how that information could be misused. You could argue that somebody would use RaDVaC instead of using a traditional vaccine, and that they might have gotten better protection for themselves had they done like a Pfizer, a Merck, or J&J inside the United States. This information on this channel is not intended for anybody in the United States. RaDVaC is primarily directed toward third world countries and second world countries that don't have the vaccine access. So is RaDVaC something for you to consider right now inside the United States? Probably not. Should RaDVaC have been investigated thoroughly beginning in July of last year? Absolutely. Guess what? It's not discussed. And so nobody's responsible for not developing it, because guess what? They don't discuss it in the halls of Congress. You count on, Fauci and his little team of industry experts. Yeah, the vaccine industry in the US is booming. But hey, guess what? Most people in the world have no immune method right now, especially poor countries.
I mean, especially like we talked about in India. So, Dr. Patterson, your thoughts on this so far after the research that Dr. Hayden sent you and information?
Well, to me, it's a very interesting approach. I would like to know personally what type of immune response. I think Mark said you didn't get a real good immune response with this nasal spray. So my question would be, what is the immune response, and is it significant enough, whether you're in a third world country, United States, or wherever, is it sufficient enough to help protect you if you're exposed to coronavirus? Because I wasn't aware. I went to the website, the RaDVaC.org, and it wasn't clear to me if there's been any formal randomized controlled trials with anybody who's used this approach, and it seems to be mostly anecdotal. Now, Mark may have different information. I'm not sure.
Let me get you what I just got from a guy named Bruce Bryant. He's an investigator over in China. I had asked Bruce to come and join us this morning. He's in China. He doesn't use Zoom. I don't know whether that's forbidden by the Chinese government or not, but I don't want to get into
probably.
I don't want to get into all that political, and I'm here to badmouth the Chinese. So, but he wrote the idea, which I am presenting to our local medical school. This is a medical school in China, to test RaDVaC. And what they do is they give one spray 1 week apart. And on the 4th week, they test for salivary IgA antibodies against the spike and the nucleoproteins. And these kits that do both the spike and the nucleoproteins, those little kits are made in China. The best testing kits in the world, a lot of them are made very, very cheaply and very well in China. You don't hear anybody in the CDC praising China. I guess that's a real no-no. But actually, they make great test kits. I wish I could get my hands on some of them test kits. All right. On the 4th week, they tested for nasal IgA using the rapid test. If you've ever done the flu test where it just drips slowly over 15 minutes and it puts little bands. Yeah. Actually, I know people who've done the urine pregnancy test. We know what those things look like, right?
Yeah.
So, you only it takes your saliva. They have about, the rumor is, from talking to some of these people, they've had about 200 people already tested, and they are getting positive results by the 4th week. Now, if you've got an antibody on your saliva, you can assume that antibody is already down deeper in your chest. Only the worst cases of COVID are dying at this point. You don't have an 80% death rate. Okay. You don't have a 90% death rate.
No.
So if you're not one of the very worst group, you may have a milder case. So there are, as we speak today, there are huge portions of the Indian population that are not vaccinated. And those people would have been benefited by a nasal spray in India, made available to them at 20 cents a piece.
Gotcha.
Was it really provided to them? Nope. Is anybody even going to be responsible because it wasn't? Well, it's never going to be publicly announced, right? So nobody will really know about it. Nobody will be held liable for really saying, hey, this was known last year. Why didn't the CDC treat some of those people in India and try to reduce their morbidity and mortality? That wasn't the big issue. Remember, one of the issues that came up last year was, if we make our vaccine, no vaccine is going to be shipped out of the United States. Yeah, I remember that really.
Right. So this global,
Oh, yeah.
so we,
Yes.
you know, we have to kind of close to closing out in this conversation, and we need to have another roundtable discussion probably next week about this as well, regarding this. And again, so RaDVaC, in your opinion, has not been tested, has not been proven, as I'm reading in the website information you just sent me, and looking at all that
Right.
stuff. So
Right.
in a way, it's another case scenario of you almost swallowing COVID, except your way, at least you've shown, is to stop this, because you don't want to continue for us to put vaccines in our bodies. And in this, the cost is too expensive for the whole world ever to get vaccinated.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, one of the things we're looking at is, what if the President Biden tells all these people in the military, you must get a vaccine? You've got Moderna, you got Johnson and Johnson, or you got Pfizer. There's 40% or about that of the Marines won't get it. And then he needs to tell them in the same breath, they had other options, but they did not investigate. Please be honest with the federal employees. Be honest with your federal, with all the people in the United States that will have vaccine mandates pushed upon them. Tell them that all the options were not investigated. Tell them that the options that were investigated first were the ones where people would make the most money. And tell them that vaccines, the ones that made the most money, were on the rich countries. And while that went on, the mutations occurred in the poor countries.
So what's going to happen with this mutation in India? Is it going to come to the United States?
Oh, it's going to be here. You can bet your bottom dollar. And here's what should really scare the people.
What about the UK? Why is the UK? Or could it go to the UK too?
Let me tell you, the worst, most pathological forms are still spreading, and they will continue to develop, and they will get worse and worse. The next wave may be far worse than the wave before it.
And it's coming.
That is exactly what
happened in the summer. You were predicting mid-May. Is that still your thought, Mark?
Well, we may see the British variant over here in mid-May. At some point, the most toxic versions are going to reach this country.
What are we going to do? We're going to shut it all down, aren't we?
Well, let me tell you, people are burned out. The economy, we're now 5 more trillion or 10 more trillion in debt than we were.
I don't think we'll shut it down. I think that certain states won't, unless the midterm elections change this. COVID's not leaving. So, Mark, last pitch. I know, Dr. Patterson, you know about Mark's, again, the oral vaccine that you can swallow, and the vaccine, the living. I think that's the best bet. It's great. He brings up things on the vaccine show like this. But again, none of these are proven, but we need to investigate. I was in with a bunch of angel investors on Clubhouse yesterday, Mark, and one guy's from Pakistan, has a lot of money. Do you want to have a call with him? He has a lot of money. He's like, so these are the connections I'm making now, because he is like a humanitarian. I'm going to reach out to him and tell him about, I didn't tell him in the room. It's amazing things. Dr. Patterson, who you can meet on Clubhouse. If you have an iPhone, you got to be there. And the conversations are unbelievable with someone like me to direct you in this platform, because it's a craziness.
Gotcha.
But I was in a room with a guy that, was very, very successful, but this one room, she's a Hollywood actress that I made a connection with, not big time, but she has all these angel investors come in, all these big time people. There's tons of people come on Clubhouse with lots of money. So we have to figure this out. We have to figure out the worldwide case scenario, not just the United States, the world, because if these variants keep spreading, they're going to come back again. And everyone has the clue in this, they think that we're going to go back to to regular normal. We're never going back to the regular normal. However,
the one investment you don't want to do right now is in big stadiums. Don't invest in any indoor stadiums, because they have nowhere near solved this problem with the aerosol spread of SARS-CoV-2. That
exactly. Outdoors or anything ago. Okay. So Dr. Mark, antivirusair.com. We're
Yes.
working on right now. Get this. Here's the news about the COVID-19 vaccine show.com. I have been fighting them right now. I didn't tell you this, Mark. They didn't want to release it to me. They thought I was some scammer. They didn't want to release that URL. We're about to get that URL and we should redirect that to a website or build a new website. So I appreciate you guys coming by. Doctor, do you have anything to promote, Dr. Patterson, before we let you go?
No, I don't. Thank you, Neil. I appreciate you doing this show.
Dr. Patterson, thank you for coming on. And I always try to close out with one good thing. We got to make every day of our lives count. And I've told Dr. Patterson this too. You know, I'm sort of a fatalist. Your day to die is your day to die. But every day we have is a blessing. And we need to be a blessing to other people in our lives and make the most of every day. Thank God. And I count my days. I hope you count your days. Our days are numbered and we need to make the most of it. Y'all have a great day and thank you for listening.
Okay.
Thank you.
In my take, Dr. Patterson, do you think we could ever get Dr. Hayden's idea of swallowing the live virus as a way to end the pandemic?
I would hope so, Neil, because to me, like I say, I'm not an expert in this field. I'm a psychiatrist, but it makes a lot of logical sense. It makes a lot of sense to take that approach to develop an immune response to this virus.
Yeah.
Rather than vaccinations. Makes a lot of sense.
I mentioned the vaccine show, Dr. Mark, on Mark Cuban's Fireside, because I do a live show on Fireside every day. It's another social audio app that's competing with Clubhouse. And it was interesting, but I could never bring you on because they would censor it in 2 seconds. It's a censored platform.
Sure.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That would be done. I would be kicked off the platform. But I mentioned COVID-19 vaccine. And I just kind of slayed back. I did an example of how you could rank high in iTunes, but all right. I appreciate you guys. Take care.
Thanks, Neil.
Thanks. Take care. Okay. That was the COVID-19 vaccine show.
Awesome.
Take care, Neil.